What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to be taking a look at the pre-release promos for the upcoming Cosmic Eclipse expansion of the Pokemon trading card game. Now, I'm going to rank them like I always do, but just off the bat here, these do not have a clear ranking like a lot of them do. I think there is a clear number one, and I think all of these promos are pretty decent and pretty fun and pretty playable, but I don't think there is a clear and obvious number one. You've been warned. So starting off at number 4, we're getting Buzzwole. And what I love about Buzzwole is it's got the ability Beast Boost, which does what Beast Boost essentially does in the video game. What it does is it means that your attacks do 20 more damage for each prize card you have taken. So every time you take a KO, Buzzwole gets a little bit better. Now, it does 60 damage for a grass and a colorless energy, which isn't great, but if you've taken 5 prizes, it does 160 damage for each prize card you have taken. And at that stage, it's starting to look an awful lot better. 160 for 2 energy is good. And bearing in mind, right, you're an Ultra Beast, so if your opponent's got 3 or 4 prizes remaining, you can use Beast Ring to accelerate the energy on here quite nicely. You can use Beast Energy to do an extra 30 damage, which is super relevant here, because it pushes you from 160 to 190, meaning that Blacephalon goes down, and Ultra Necrozma goes down, etc. Although very much worth noting that 160 is enough to get both Jirachi and Dedenne, both of which are seeing a huge amount of play right now, so you are still getting a couple of them, yay, etc. The other thing is, it's just a decent grass-type attacker. We like playing Ultra Beasts as one-offs, and if we want a fighting one, well, we've got the Buzzwole from Forbidden Light. We're good. But we haven't had a grass one up till now. Yeah, sure, we've had the Pheromosa from Forbidden Light, but really the best thing about that is it's a basic Pokemon with decent HP and free retreat. 180 if you've got 1 prize remaining, but it's for 2 grass and a colorless, which is frankly an awkward attack cost. So this might be it. I quite like it as a finishing Pokemon. I love that it's an Ultra Beast. I quite like it if you're hitting for grass weakness. I mean, if something like Slowpoke and Psyduck ever becomes really big, this is a pretty nice counter. I don't love the fire weakness because fire decks are great right now. Cheers for that, Welder. But I do think it's a nice little tech. Not a card around which you'll build a deck, but a nice little tech. Speaking of nice little techs, in at number 3, we've got Entei. Entei, 130 HP is quite nice, etc. What we really like about Entei is 1 fire, 1 colorless energy, 30 damage, but if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack during their last turn, this attack does 90 more damage. Now, the reason I love this is the aforementioned Welder. You play a Welder, you pop 2 fire energy on there, and then all of a sudden this is rolling in a single turn, and you can even use your energy attachment for the turn somewhere else. Just put it on something else. So, I like this. I just don't know if we're going to play it. Now look, if you're against something like an Alolan Ninetales, for instance, which is blocking GXs, this is pretty good. The problem is, we've got Volcanion, and an awful lot of fire decks at the moment are playing Volcanion. Now, Volcanion for 2 energy does 110 rather than 120, but it doesn't really matter, because the really relevant Pokemon you want to get here are things like Alolan Ninetales, which has 110. Or maybe something like a Zapdos that has 110. To be fair, one of the most annoying Pokemon it won't get here is Volcanion that has 120. The thing is, Volcanion, you just need 4 energy out, and in a Welder deck, that's going to be largely done as a matter of course. Whereas Entei, your Pokemon must have been knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack during their last turn. It's a nice little counter, and I like it. I like it as a tech. I like it with Welder. I just don't know if the extra 10 damage is going to make us play it over something like Volcanion, which has got such a good single energy attack, just for getting energy on early in the game. Don't worry about the second attack. Free energy 100 kind of sucks. This is why I put it at number 3. Not because it's a bad Pokemon, but I just think we've got other options. As a side note, I have done videos about these four Pokemon. I'll pop links in the description. In at number 2, Phione. A Pokemon that I was really excited about right up until they spoiled Belelba and Bryson Man. And everyone started playing Magcargo. And now I just don't have the love for it that I did. Let me explain. So the best thing about this is the ability whereby if it's on your bench, you may have your opponent switch their active Pokemon with one of their bench, and then you discard all cards attached to Phione and put it on the bottom of your deck. Now this does 2 things. Number 1, it makes your opponent switch their active, though it is kind of like Escape Rope or Repel, rather than something like Lysander or Guzma. That is to say, your opponent has the choice as to which of their Pokemon they switch, not you. But it's still nice to make them switch. That's still going to be super annoying a lot of the time. The thing is, you also get to put it on the bottom of your deck. And it basically guarantees you don't deck out. If you have any turns where you literally have no cards in deck, put Phione on the bottom of your deck. You might make your opponent switch when you'd rather they didn't, but let's not worry about that for now. You make them switch, life is good. And you put it on the bottom of your deck. And then next turn, you draw Phione, bench it, put it on the bottom of your deck. And round we go. You can't deck out. And that's brilliant. Except, we're getting Belelba and Bryson Man. And that is a tag team supporter that if you just play it normally, makes both players discard the top 3 cards of their deck. So if you've just got a Phione in deck, your opponent drops this, and you deck out and lose. That in itself is kind of annoying. But the problem is, the best deck at the moment is Mewtwo and Mew. I did a video about how it's the best deck. I'll pop a link in the description. And the problem is that Mewtwo and Mew now, as a matter of course, they tend to play Magcargo. And Magcargo has a GX attack which Mewtwo and Mew can copy, whereby you discard the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. Which means if they've got very few cards in deck, they lose. I was super hyped about this for the new Excadrill, which does 180 for a single energy if you've got 3 or fewer cards left in your deck. But the reality is the new Excadrill just is not viable because of Belelba and Bryson Man, and because everyone's playing Magcargo. Phione was great with that, and it has seen play in Japan with this, but I think those 2 cards make it kind of irrelevant. Boo, etc. And number 1, I think it's a quite clear number 1. The best pre-release card in the set is Blacephalon. 1 psychic, 1 colorless energy. Put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. Meh. If your opponent has exactly 3 prize cards remaining, you put 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. Now that is good. We've seen that Espeon and Deoxys has shown us how great it is to be able to drop multiple damage counters. If your opponent is relying on Pidgeotto as a draw engine, as a lot of decks are at the moment, this will KO 2 of them in one go. Now, okay, it's very specific. It's only if your opponent has exactly 3 prizes remaining, but as long as they do, go for it. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And as for the energy cost, well, it's an Ultra Beast. We got the aforementioned Beast Ring. It's a Psychic Pokemon, so we can use something like Malamar. If you head into the expanded format, we do actually have Dimension Valley, which will reduce the attack cost down to just 1 Psychic Energy. So paying the attack cost isn't a big deal. and it can do so much damage. It's phenomenal. I am a huge, huge fan of this Blacephalon. Once again, it is a tech. It's not a card around which you build a deck, but it is still very, very nice. And let's be clear, none of these pre-release promos are hitting the redonkulous heights of the Jirachi from Team Up. That was kind of exceptional in terms of how great it was. Similarly, Malamar was a pre-release promo back in Forbidden Light, and none of these are on that kind of level. But I don't think any of these are terrible promos. I think they're all fine. I think they're all playable. I think Blacephalon is the best. I think Buzzwole's the worst. And the other two I think you could switch around if you like. But there we go. Those are the pre-release promos, and I'd like to know what you think of them, how many pre-releases you're going to head to, and which of these you hope to pull out of your pre-release box when you do. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc., head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.